work that I've been involved in for the UN has necessarily involved visiting and working in sites that were often described as some of the worst atrocities of the 20th century.
The police wanted someone who could analyse the insects on the bodies.
Forensics in general, I mean, it's been as old as crime.
People in the graves were those who had been collected in order to be killed. People who had been prisoners in camps, let's say in northern Bosnia. In Rwanda it was people who were gathered into churches and stadiums on purpose so that they could be killed there.
From the not-so-humble microscope to the unassuming insect, science has found a way to gather truth from the grave. Microanalysis allows law enforcement agencies to link chemical information with potential suspects. One of the most important is gunshot residue.
These particles are pretty unique in composition, chemical composition. So when you do identify these, there is no doubt that they are anything else. Of course, South Africa has a major problem with illegal guns and gun-related crime. And what this talk is about is talking about the different ways of detecting that a firearm has been used or identifying different firearms.
Work on a crime scene, there are these various aspects that the police use. So I refer to as a toolbox of techniques. And what they do is they use these techniques to investigate the crime scene. And the more of these techniques that they can apply, you know, things like fingerprint technology, DNA technology, forensic entomology, ballistics, the more powerful the case they can build and the more thorough they can carry out the analysis.
What we have to do is see the signs of life in the bones. We take x-rays of teeth. We have to be able to chart people's teeth so that we can compare them to odontograms and x-rays of people who are missing persons that may be related to the grave. Our process is being able to extract the bony elements that we need to study and to be able to clean them and so on. It's incredibly low-tech.
The police are now able to use much more powerful technology than they had at their disposal in the past. For example, cell phone technology, DNA technology are very modern techniques.
Bosnia and the former Yugoslavia in general, most of the time our teams have had to work under military protection because of the locations of the graves were in areas where not only are some of the perpetrators actually walking free, but there are many people who still support those people. So it was very important for us to have military protection. We lived on military bases. In Bosnia, when we worked in Republika Srpska, we usually had up to 100 soldiers who were protecting us.
Basically, you have to focus in on that science. So consequently, when I go to a crime scene, I make a point of not finding out the name of the victim. It's got nothing to do with me or anything about the victim's relatives. I have to analyze a scientific scenario, and that's how you try to maintain objectivity.
What I have had to do, particularly when actually in these graves, when actually faced with the fact that this person's hands were tied behind their back with wire at the time that they were shot with 35 high-velocity bullets, my sense is I must use my scientific protocol to answer the questions that I'm here to answer, to listen to the stories that I need to hear.
And the Lee Matthews case was a particularly difficult one because I got to know the parents and Lee's sister, and you could see the anguish of those people, and it's very difficult to handle it then. Although we still had to maintain the scientific objectivity. But once we testified in the Supreme Court, when you have to be very focused, once you've done that, then it's a different scenario. You relax and it becomes more difficult. You
realize the enormity of what you've seen, and the enormity that any given community is the enormity of the problem that community is trying to deal with.
You see the victim as a food resource. There's competition for that food resource, and the entomology needs to be analysed, and the more information you can get out of that scientific information to back the investigation, the more successful the investigation, to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
You have people who know that their relatives were killed, but they cannot actually go to the place where the gravesite is because it's too dangerous. or the gravesite has been booby-trapped with mines or what have you.
When crime is in your face all the time, then you tend to want to find out why it is and how we can get around it.
Last year I did something like 48 or 49 murder cases with the police.
I had a great sense of happiness. That's really the word, because I knew that we were going to uncover a crime.
All of us make a small contribution to the bigger picture.
In concert with the bodies, we were going to help them provide testimony as to what happened. And that really good feeling is something that has kept me going at all times.